What is up, ProGuides family? My name is Nathan Ng, and I'm excited to be your host for this video. A lot of you guys have been asking for it, so we'll be covering one of the most important and challenging topics in the entire game: how to use teleport. Hit that sub button because we're always creating informative content like this, and well, let's just go ahead and just jump right into it. There are a lot of things that you have to consider when using Summoner Teleport. We'll go over all of them through the video, but I just want to be frank with you. You won't use it optimally overnight, and it's such a complex spell to use that I'll go ahead and start by simplifying that little bit for you. Think of the 3 R's: reason, risk, and reward. Unfortunately, there will never be a black and white answer, but using this model to think before you cast teleport should give you a sufficient guideline to begin improving the usage of it. The first thing that you always have to think about is the reason why you're teleporting. There are just too many times where people thoughtlessly cast it. So before you do, always ask yourself why. Why are you using it? There should always be either a proactive or reactive reasoning behind it. Here are some examples of reasons that you want to teleport. A huge wave is crashing into your turret and you want to teleport to make sure that you get it all and don't fall behind. Your opponent just recalled and you see a chance to push the wave after teleporting, which will allow you to create a lead. The enemy bot lane is overextended and you want to punish them for playing so aggressively. You see a great flank opportunity and you know that you could get objectives after winning the fight. Someone on the enemy team is channeling their teleport and you also want to join the fight. You get the point, there's always got to be intent. Of course, some reasons are going to be better than others. If you want to teleport to catch 3 minions, we both know that that's not the best use of the ability. However, if you played a certain matchup enough to know that missing that minion wave about to hit your turret will take you out of the game altogether, that's a little bit different. When you think about the reason that you want to teleport, try to think about the long-term effect of your decision as well. Off this example, it makes sense to teleport if it determines the relevancy of the game as a whole. In contrast, getting 50 or 60 more gold is a lot less meaningful. Reason is a first step in the process for, well, a reason. What's important is that unlike other summoner spells, it's a lot more difficult to determine when you shouldn't use teleport. You obviously don't heal when you're at full health, and you don't also smite 10 seconds before a dragon spawns. You also don't exhaust a tank when there's an assassin diving your carry, and you don't flash if you're gonna die no matter what. Comparatively, there's a lot more thought that goes into the use of teleport. By the way, let me go over our question of the day since we're talking about summoner spells. Which summoner spells do you think is the most overpowered and why? Of course, I do think teleport is pretty overpowered when used well, but more consistently, I think it's Summoner Exhaust. It's almost always useful, easy to use, and I find it especially frustrating to play against when I'm fed. Let me know your answers in the comments down below. And with that, let's talk about the risk. The next thing that you have to think about is risk involved with the teleport. When using it to do something like secure farm or get back to the lane faster, there's very little risk involved. Now, there might be a question of whether teleporting to a single minion when your enemy has a giant wave stacked is safe or not, but you could just easily teleport to your turret instead to avoid this sort of risk. Risk becomes a much more important factor to consider when you're teleporting to proactively make plays on the map. Whether you're playing top or mid, teleporting bottom during the laning phase is something that you'll be doing quite often. Here are some things that you need to take into consideration before casting it. Think about how likely your play is to succeed. When the enemy bot lane is on a roll and absolutely demolishing yours, can you single-handedly gank them and realistically take them down? You need a good understanding of your own power level as well as theirs to determine this, and there's no doubt that things can go wrong. If your jungler is ganking at the same time, you've got much better odds, and of course, you're more likely to succeed with this play. Aside from the risk involved of whether or not the play actually works, you have to think about what you're giving up by teleporting from your own lane. In economics, because I have an economics degree that I'm not using, we call this opportunity cost, the opportunity forgone for making a certain risk. Look at the state of your own minion wave. If you're teleporting while the opponent is slow pushing and stacking a huge wave, it's obvious that you're putting a lot more on the line. Should your play fail, not only would you have gotten nothing out of it, but you also fall very far behind your opponent by doing so. On the other hand, if you teleport while your own minion wave is pushed into the enemy turret, you lose little to nothing. Finally, after considering why you're trying to teleport and assessing the risk, you should also think about the reward. If you watch a lot of our videos, you'll probably know that we typically advocate for low-risk plays, not because they're inherently better, but because there's a lot of low-risk plays that are so rewarding in League of Legends. You can absolutely go for the plays that are extremely risky, but the reward should also merit the play. If you're potentially going to fall 2 levels behind your lane opponent in an attempt to TP gank somebody, it doesn't feel like the intelligent move to do so. On the other hand, potentially throwing the game for the chance at winning the game off a single play can be justified. Again, you'll only be able to make good teleports after gaining a ton of experience, but here's a rule that you can follow to help you decide when to go for the risky teleports. When you think that nothing will lead to a slow bleed out, it's better to take insane risks and try to turn the game around. For example, all 3 lanes are losing and your team looks like it's going to get outscaled. In a scenario like this, you can be pretty aggressive with your teleport, because what's the worst that can happen? You're gonna lose the game if you do nothing anyway, so you might as well take that risk because the reward of possibly getting back into the game outweighs the risk. You were already pretty far behind, getting put behind even more won't matter that much. That covers the concept of reason, risk, and reward. When you use this system, you can determine whether or not you should use your teleport or not. It doesn't end there, and next I'll go over the anatomy of an optimal teleport. We'll assume that you got the system down and have already determined that the teleport you're going for is a good one. The positioning of your teleport is usually the most important. Like I mentioned earlier, you probably don't want to teleport to a single minion when your enemy has a giant wave stack. I might have accidentally done that once against a Darius and instantly lost the game. Or I may not have. Who knows? That's up to you to decide. This sort of teleport will be very poorly positioned and any player can easily fix this. What's harder is positioning teleports for team fights, setting up plays, or reacting to your opponent's engage. I'm not saying this next part to bash the tank players, but it's a lot easier to use teleport when you're playing tank. For those of you who are trying to practice your use of it, I suggest locking in somebody like Malphite to get started. As a tank, there are a lot more good teleports than there are for other champions. Even if you teleport into the middle of 5 people, it doesn't matter if they all collapse on you and try to burst you down. Soaking up damage is your job, and you can either start a fight this way or be incredibly disruptive in the middle of one by doing this. However, if you're playing a carry or a squishier champion without Zhonya's Hourglass or some means of stalling, you'd obviously be inting by telegraphing with the 4-second channel where you're going to end up. What's almost universally a good teleport is one that you're using to flank an enemy. While your team is trying to start a fight, you look to engage from the other side. A good flank is one that can pincer your opponents. If the enemy team has multiple paths that they can take, they can try to avoid your teleport by running away from it and your team simultaneously. One way to consistently find great angles is to teleport to a spot close to choke points in the river or the enemy jungle. These tight corridors force players into a spot with only one possible exit. They'll either have to find their way out or use utility to escape. Ask your teammates for specific wards, pinging them out, or place them yourself in the spot that you want to teleport to. Have the foresight to expect the need for these teleport wards later on in fights. If a dragon is spawning, for example, try to get some wards down a minute in advance so you can go ahead and get a good flank. Something that also comes into play with your teleport positioning is predicting how your opponents will react to it. This part is actually kind of easy, like my ex. While there are little differences between responses, generally there are only 3 ways that players can respond to a well-placed teleport. They either try to run away from the fight altogether, turn around and initiate the fight before the teleport finishes, or, as a team, focus down whoever's teleporting in. How you position your teleport influences this severely. Teleporting directly behind your opponent while your team is in front of them can lead to any of the 3 responses. If you're playing a carry champion, teleporting directly into 5 enemies will often lead them to try bursting you down after you finish the channel. If you're playing an AD champion, you'll get one shot with this, but you can go ahead and build a stopwatch to bait out the important utility when doing this. As an AP champion, Zhonya's Hourglass is your friend and you can get a lot more aggressive with teleports if you have one in your inventory. For example, there are plenty of other things that you can consider as well. If you're playing Echo, you can ult out if things don't play the way that you want them to. If you have 2 players running teleport, your enemies always get confused by whoever's using it. Or, since you have 2 players with it, you could double teleport to elicit a different response. The final thing that we need to go over is timing. This one is also pretty easy, but also extremely important. You almost always know if your timing is off after a fight plays out anyway, so you'll pick up on it quickly, I'm sure. Timing is important with any teleport, but the 2 most relevant moments are when you're using it while an objective is being taken or when you're teleporting bottom to punish enemy aggression. When your enemies are doing Baron Nashor, you need to be patient, but not too patient with your teleport. Using it too early means that your enemies can immediately get off and reset. Using it too late means that your enemy team can go ahead and secure the objective and you'll be stuck taking a fight against a buffed up enemy team. One point that's usually good to teleport at is when Baron is around just a little bit lower than 40% HP. At this point, the enemy team has committed a lot to finishing the objective, and if they choose to back off from it, they're often lower on health and mana after fighting the monster. They'll also be afflicted by Baron Nashor's debuff, Voracious Corrosion, which can decrease resistances up by 50. For the bottom lane teleport, your best bet is to teleport after your opponents have committed to a fight. Either they have to go all in or try to run away after casting crucial abilities. If an enemy Lucian or Ezreal caster E's aggressively, you can begin channeling teleport as they're immediately going to be put into a difficult situation. If you cast it too early, they can instead run away with their utility and now you're in the wrong lane and waiting on a giant cooldown. To summarize, you'll need to actively practice and think of your teleports. Try using our 3-step process of reason, risk, and reward to help you assess whether you want to teleport. Then consider the positioning of it, how it will play out, and your timing for the best shot at success. I'll be covering our video on how to best use teleport. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Also, check the description link if you want to join our Discord. We've got a great community and often run cool events like giveaways that you can always be the first to find out about if you join. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.